Hello, everyone, and welcome to the weekly show. I'm Skari, your grateful host, and this is the show I do usually every week for Patreons over on my Patreon page. Every once in a while, about once every couple of months, I do it open and live for all of you to enjoy so you can get very jealous about what the Denizen community gets up to behind closed doors. Now, it is a show where it's a couple of different segments. The first segment is me talking about hobby updates, things that I'm working towards, scheduling, stuff that I'm kind of like getting done for about 10-15 minutes. Then we go into the Q&A, boom, where I talk to chat, and patrons get to submit questions, and I answer them, and we discuss things, and it's like a talk show where you can get involved if you'd like. And then the last part is one of my favorites. It's the list crunch, where Scourge, Trueborn, and Incubi level patrons can submit an army list every single show. And I read it, and I give you my thoughts on the list, and you can tap into my 30 years of experience playing Warhammer to help you develop a list concept or something like that. So thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope you enjoy it. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already to the channel, and enjoy the weekly show. This is season 3, episode 26, and it's a lot of stuff happens during all of this time as well. Brent says, coffee level achieved. Greetings and congrats on your last team tournament. Thank you. Thank you very much, Brent. I really appreciate that as well. Yes, this weekend was the Can Hammer team tournament. I ended up going with the Red Dragon team. Of course, the Red Dragon has been sponsoring me in my journey to be the #1 player in the ITC ranked this season. Of course, Josh Roberts is the man to beat right now with over 1,500 ITC points globally. I don't have all of my points yet, but I'm sitting at a handy dandy top 50, I think, right now. But that's also with like 2 big events and or 3 big events and 3 very small events. So I've got tons of room to gain more points throughout the course of the season, which I'm really excited about. And that's sort of like one of my main goals is going to be to beat the top spot, which is really fun. And for that, I've got tons of events that I'm going to be going to. Yes, this weekend was Can Hammer Team Tournament. We ended up winning. I got another golden ticket. Of course, I only need one, so the ones of us that had golden tickets passed them down. That does mean I will be at the World Championships of Warhammer later in the year. Hopefully, hopefully that all works out, with stuff. Hello, Kirk. What's going on? Thanks a lot for coming to hang out as well. Oh, this is going to be a good time. What else have I been up to? Well, today I'm releasing my first Kill Team Battle Report, which is going to be super fun. I played Dan, and Dan I met at Adepticon. And he came over to Mini Wargaming to film some content with Mini Wargaming. And he ended up teaching me Kill Team. So I ended up filming a Kill Team game, new Kill Team, which was super fun. And then what's funny is this week I played 4th edition Kill Team, like the original Kill Team. That was such a nostalgia trip. I got to play as a Kill Team and then as the Brute Squads and the boss. And if you played Warhammer back in 4th edition, like that was it was a really fun way of playing where you could mix models from different units to make a cool little crack squad of killers that you could name and give them all gear and stuff, and they'd go in and try and do like a movie scene heist style, which was really entertaining. What's really funny though is we ended up playing 2 missions that were very non-interactive. 2 like sneak around and don't get caught missions. So we had to sort of get involved and get more aggressive than we needed to make it good cinema, if that makes sense. So that was super, super fun. Other than that, there has been a lot of sort of a lot of stuff lately. You've got World Eaters just came out, Death Guard just came out. There's so many it's crazy. There's so many things that are going to be coming out in the future that I'm really, really excited about. And so in terms of like getting ready for all that stuff, it's like test games, like practicing, reading, making sure you test with the meta, because I just really want to make sure that I'm like up to date with all the new stuff that's coming down the pipeline, especially when I take my elves or something to a tournament, and I have to practice and a variety of different things as well. Needless to say, like, I feel like I'm very busy and there's a lot of stuff I would like to do, but my schedule is so tight. It's like I feel like I don't have any time, but I have all the time. And then it's just filled up all the time, which is really weird to say. So let's kind of dive in a little bit to what I've been doing. I went to the Canhammer team tournament. That was really fun. I had five great rounds against 5 great opponents. I did do the tournament and review, which if you haven't watched, I highly recommend you do. I ended up playing as Necrons, which was awesome. It was really fun. It wasn't just the fact that I got to play Necrons. It was the fact that I got to play Necrons that were sort of my style. You know what I mean? Like I modified the Necron list that Nick had sort of like recommended that I kind of use or whatnot, and I switched it. I put in the Deceiver, I put in a Psychomancer, I put in Ophidian Destroyers, and I sort of made it a tricksy, Drukhari-esque, or we can call it scarified it, with a bunch of little units that did actions and did shenanigans, right? That's a very much my style of play, is having like little toolkit pieces that I try and get the maximum out of every single time that I play. And some of you prefer like smash face, right? Like running up and just punching things. I like having some elements of that, but I really like having tools to get myself out of problems and dilemmas and situations, so I can pull like the tool out of my belt and be like, ooh, I've got something that can go and do this or do that or whatever. It's taken some time to get used to playing Necrons again. However, it has been a lot of fun. Now, in terms of schedule, for anybody who's curious as to what Skari is going to be up to, let's focus on schedule first. So this weekend, I have a crusade event that I'm going to. I've been participating in a local crusade at the Tabletop Forge, which is my friendly local game store. John the Cron and Tyler own the store, and I've basically my little studio in there. And I've been doing Crusade. It's a great way to sort of like decompress from all the sort of like competitive gaming that I do, considering, yes, I was selected to be one of the 8 traveling players for the Canadian national team at this year's WTC, the World Team Championship. So I will be representing Canada at the world stage in Leoben this year. So I'm very, very excited about that. I will more than likely be participating at the War Masters as well, which is the singles tournament that happens just before the WTC. I'm probably not going to use the same list, though, that I'll be using for the Canadian national team. So I don't know. We'll see. What I do know is that there is a lot of Warhammer in my future. Like a lot, and if you have any sort of like questions at all about that, just make sure you let me know, whatever, which works really, really well. And yeah, and if you have any questions about team events or how to like get selected on the Canadian national team, or how that process works, please make sure you reach out to me, and I can kind of direct you in the right direction and stuff like that as well. Now, Crusade is a great way to sort of decompress, and I do believe very strongly that if you want to get better at competitive 40k, once you kind of know the basics of how competitive 40k works, like scoring points and kind of separating the narrative elements of the game and the immersive elements of the game from point scoring, right? Like having that divide in your mentality. Playing Crusade games, narrative games, asymmetrical games like missions in the Crusade packs that are like attacker defender, and the attacker gets 300 more points or whatever it is, like stuff that's not balanced, creates character. And if you want to get good at Warhammer, play games that are not balanced, and you will learn more from that than just playing cookie cutter Warhammer all the time. And it'll teach you how to get out of sticky situations more frequently when you do go into a game that's a little bit more cookie cutter. I'm a big proponent of that. Play Crusade, where like characters get really stupid and units get upgrades and do stuff that doesn't really happen. As long as you can separate it and remember that units like, have rules that are like wacky in Crusade, but it's more about the imbalance of it all to sort of generate problem-solving skills as well. Hello, Who Took My Dice? How's it going? Welcome to the chat. Of course, if anybody is in chat and you're listening from work or at home, let me know where you're listening in from and tuning in from, because I tend to ramble for about 10 to 15 minutes about my life before we dive into the main part of the show. So thanks for coming to hang out. I really appreciate it. Of course, I'm Skari. If this is the first time you're here, I mainly play Drukhari. I'm one of the top players in the world. I coach. I have a Patreon page, a Discord that we run, and I do a variety of different things, hobby related, and I do content full time. This is my job, is to make content, teach, educate, and entertain. Right, which is my whole thing. Shadowed Hands, hello. Rail says from work, super excited. Who Took My Dice? I'm good. How's life? Life is good. Thank you very much. Yeah, doing great. Morning, kerfuffles. What's going on? Up in Owen Sound, says Kirk. Nice. That's awesome. I'm glad you're having a good, relaxing morning in Owen Sound, which is far north than most of the people further north than most of the people tuning into this will ever go. Tuning into the stream while painting some Custodes. Oh, that's exciting. In terms of other events as well, we have got, so I was going to be going to the Port Credit Purge, which was going to happen on the 17th and 18th of May. That was going to be a GT in Mississauga, but it is the May 2-4 long weekend, which is a holiday here in Canada, and which is Victoria Day on the Monday. Victoria Day, yeah. They had to reschedule it to September because of the weekend. It seemed like a lot of folks just weren't able to really sign up for it. Well, it is a bit of a shame. I was really hoping to go to that event. That was going to be like my main practice for the event that's happening on the 23rd, 24th, and 25th, which is the Dallas Open in Dallas. I already have my plane tickets. I will be attending the Dallas Open. Now, traveling down with Dan from the Red Dragon. It is, since it's we're going to go down, we're going to participate in the tournament. So if you are at the Dallas Open, make sure you come and say hi to us, and we'll be there hanging out. I'm not sure what style of army I'll be taking, but probably Drukhari of some sort. It is one of the events that I kind of want to do okay at, so I'll probably be taking something that I know well. I've been practicing some really cool Reaper's Wager lists and stuff, so stay tuned. I don't know, we'll see. We'll see what happens, right, as that goes as well. And then there is a GT on the 31st of May, but I might not be going to that because it's in Ottawa. But it is a Red Dragon tournament, which I really enjoy. But then the 7th of June is the Ottawa Team Tournament. And the Ottawa Team Tournament, I get to play with Stud or Scrub again. I am so excited to play on the Stud or Scrub team again. It feels great. And the Stud or Scrub team, for the last 2 events, because I was commandeered by the Red Dragon as my sponsor to play on their team for a couple of events. Fair enough. He's paying for my ability to go to big events globally and to be like a spokesperson for his brand. So I'm 100% okay with that. So I abandoned the Stutter Scrub. I said, you're a bunch of scrubs, and I need to follow the stud in me, and went to play for the Red Dragon. So what did they do? They got a blow-up doll and printed out my face and cut out a printout of my face and put it on this blow up doll, and then put my shirt on it. So they had a shirt, my team shirt on a blow up doll, and apparently it was the best coach they've ever had, which is insulting to me. Anyway, super fun. But now I actually get to participate. And I feel like my blow up doll might be a tournament organizer or a judge at this event. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Yeah, they was on the live stream. They've done it twice now. At the Toronto Open and at the Canhammer team tournament, they had me in effigy. And they malhandled me at night. Yeah, apparently that's the report. So, I don't know. I don't want to ask too many questions about that. North of the wall, that's right, says Kirk. How does the wager list work? I've read it many times. I'm still confused by it. Well, that's a whole other topic of conversation. The Reaper's wager list can be used for the stratagems, where you're using it for lethal, sustained, ignore, overwatch, advance and charge, that sort of thing. Or you can use it for its ability to bring in like the Harlequins more effectively and then buff the Harlequins and kind of play the detachment rule in addition to all the cool strats. I've done both. If I want to play in a teams event and I want to play Reaper's Wager, I've designed a list that doesn't require Harlequins so that I can play it while somebody else takes Eldar, because Eldar is so good that I would be very selfish to take the Eldar away from the team composition if I wanted to play Drukhari. Which is funny because they have Drukhari in their book and they could play an Ari without using the Drukhari. So hopefully when the Drukhari Codex comes out, we just have Harlequins built in. That would be kind of neat. Like there was one codex that had Harlequins built in. Was it fifth or sixth edition? Anyway, saw that on the live stream. Hello, Chad. What's going on? Thanks for coming to hang out. So that's one thing. So I've got Dallas, then I've got the Ottawa team tournament, which is really fun. That happens in June, and then June, July, August, September. Then I basically am like, it's my event season is coming up, right? Then on the 14th, like the weekend after, I'm going to Edmonton for the Edmonton Open, which is the first GW event that they've run in Canada since Games Day of like 2007 or something like that. Like, it's insane, right? 2010. Then I was supposed to have an Apocalypse game later that month with Davis. Sorry, Davis, that we had to reschedule that. My apologies. I feel like that would have been really fun. And then, of course, July, we've got like some Team Canada stuff getting in there. Ooh, okay. That seems to be like my dad's having a retirement party. And then I'm going to Tacoma, right? So I'll be in Tacoma late July on the 19th. So if you're going to go to Tacoma, I'll be there. And then the first week of August is the WTC, so War Masters and WTC, the World Team Championship. Then I basically have, a couple of weekends off to just like rest, relax. Actually, I've got a decent number of weekends off. 1, 2, 3, 4, so a couple. And then in September, Studs and Scrubs, that's a team event, which I'll be on the stud team for that. Then end of September, London GT. I will be at the London GT, so I'll see you there. Then the weekend right after London GT, Las Vegas Open. I will be at the Las Vegas Open again. Trying to beat my record from this year. And then from there, end of October, Mike Mudd Memorial Tournament, which I never miss. And then in November, was it November 8th, is it? November the 8th? Yeah, the World Championships of Warhammer. And then the season will end. So it's going to be a crazy whirlwind until that point, and then we'll kind of go from there. You know what I mean? So I've got a lot of work ahead of me. I'm really looking forward to the rest of the ITC season. I'm going to put my head down. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to try and showcase not only my skill set, but also the determination that I have to reach my goal. And hopefully it inspires some of you to in your Warhammer journey as well. So, quick question, says Chad. Do you think it's ever worth to have multiple Kabalite units in a Sky Splinter list? Yes, I do. There's a couple of lists that I built that has like 6 Cabalite squads and 6 Venoms. You know what I mean? Like I have done skew lists like that. The biggest thing that I find is if I take, say, 2 squads of Cabalites, I need 2 Venoms to split them. And then usually I want to take 2 Archons to make sure that I give them reroll hits and wounds to actually make sure they do damage consistently. I find a Cabalite squad without an Archon, or without the ability to get those rerolls, tends to be quite lackluster. And in Sky Splinter, of course, they get the ignore cover, which is just amazing. You know, you can't go wrong with that as well. Go Team Canada! Thank you. Who took my dice? It is going to be a busy year. Robbie says 300-point bombers incoming. You know, every time I see Josh, I'm like, Josh, 300-point bombers. And no, I actually tell him, why did you put my bombers up? Like, what? Like, they're not that good. They're not that good. I'm that good. So I do apologize, entire Drukhari population. Although it's funny, because I haven't really been to an event in like a month and a half with my Drukhari, other than like the Toronto Open, so no singles events. And we're not doing badly. You've got Cody Giro, you've got Sky Serpent, you've got all these like fantastically talented generals playing Drukhari and holding the banner up high of like a high skill level faction that can do well if you just play good Warhammer, right? And you know, and the game format, just like the Pariah mission format, is pretty good for the Dark Eldar. You know, you can disagree with me all you want, but I feel like I have the tools to win every single game I play when I play my Dark Eldar. I do not feel as shoehorned as when I play other factions. Like when I play like Necrons, I'm like, oh, this is the terrible matchup for me. And I know this is bad. But if I were to play with my Dark Eldar, I'd be like, ooh, there's a way that I could win this every time. So with that, enough rambling. Well, last little bit of rambling. Hobby. I've been... because I played that kill team game that I talked about earlier, I've built my specialists, because I hadn't built the specialist ones to do my Mandrake units, because they're not really options you can take in a Mandrake squad. However, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they get upgrades, you know, in the actual codex at some point, because they are unit choices, unit options. So it's like you've got your like big guy with the big glaive, the guy that opens portals, and the guy that shoots better, that has like the shooting attacks or whatever. So that's like, cool. They're done. I'm getting them done. I also got myself a second Dark Elf Blood Bowl box. And the only thing I needed out of the second box, which is weird, but anybody who's played Dark Elves and Blood Bowl knows, you need 2 more Blitzers. I had converted 2 from like a bunch of Cabalite bits, but I'm like, you know what? I want the actual models. So I got myself 2 of them. I also, hobby-wise, for anybody who's wondering, got myself this dude. That's right, Illuminor Caesarus. And you know why I got him? I got him for that guy. Just that. I only want this piece right here. This guy lying and this, like, sucking the flesh off of his bones. Because I have a really cool Archon conversion in mind. I'm going to make a diorama, Archon Skari diorama, that's going to be on a big base. And I'm going to get my, because I misplaced my Archon Skari. I got it sent to me. Somebody bought a Skari and sent me one when I lost it. Like, he disappeared. Archon Skari just disappeared. He's somebody's house or whatever. Somebody stole him. I don't know. Got put in the garbage. I don't know what happened to him. Disappeared. So I'm going to make him, we're going to grab a big base. It's going to be a diorama. He's going to be like on a plinth. And there's going to be like, you know, souls getting sucked out of corpses and stuff. It's going to be really cool. And then it's going to be like, yeah, you know what I mean? It's going to be neat. So I'm going to be really excited about that. But I got that entire box just for that piece. I'm a madman. Although I'm probably going to build and paint Illuminor Caesarus, especially if I'm going to be playing some Necrons throughout the course of the season at some point. Okay, he went on a walkabout. I did. I miss my Dark Eldar, says Kerfuffles. Still rebuilding and painting the yacht club. Thanks for what you're doing. I'm taking notes. Awesome. Yeah, pen and paper is a great thing to have when you're listening to one of my videos. And of course, we do this show, like the weekly show, usually every week, unless I'm traveling for an event. And I do it for patrons. It is an exclusive patron show. Every once in a while, I'll open the vaults like today. But if you'd like to support me on Patreon, the link is in the description below. The Discord is free to join for everyone. Anybody can join the Discord. You just have to go to the Patreon page, click on the Collections tab, and there's a the promotions tab. Sorry, there's a promo tab or a promo collection, and you can find the post that has the Discord link for like you can link in, join up, fill in the captcha so you get a role, and you can join the growing Denizen community as a rogue trader. So not an actual Denizen member, but as a rogue trader, somebody who dabbles in the shadows of Komara. But yeah, other than that, if you like the video, leave a comment. It really helps the channel get noticed. And of course, share it on social media. You know the drill. You know the drill. If you like what I do, share it with the world. Okay. You inspired me to join the Karmara Degenerate family, said Chad. I can tell he's been a mixed feeling experience trying to collect Drukhari. Yes, it is a roller coaster because you have to buy new models, source old models, convert. Like it's very involved, right? You have to get really involved. You have to want to do it. It's not for the faint of heart. And then you get to the table and get stomped, right? Because you're squishy in toughness 3. And you learn that everything dies. Just everything. Everything in your army is going to die. And then you get used to this and you accept it as a fact. And then you move on. Assembling, painting, theory crafting, playing, collecting. Oof, yeah, the collecting can be tough. Joaquim says, it's weird. I see Skari more as ad mech guy rather than evil elf. Peak profiling. Yeah, no, I've been playing the Adeptus Mechanicus at my local league, like the Ontario League. I literally joined to play Adeptus Mechanicus, and I've been just destroying people with Adeptus Mechanicus. I have one more game in my league against Death Guard. And the 2 last games I played against Sean, who was playing Deathwatch. That was a very tough match, and I lost by the skin of my teeth. And now I'm going into Cody, and he's playing Death Guard. It's old Death Guard, but I told him he can just play new Death Guard because I need to practice anyway. So he's going to make a new Death Guard list, and we're going to play our league match, and he can play his new stuff, which is fine. Like that, I can get some practice in new Death Guard. But I'm doing with AdMech, which is a subpar. Although since I'm letting him play new Death Guard, maybe he'll let me run my more efficient AdMech list. Which is like, because I took like one of the sniper dudes and stuff. I'm like, because I just had the model. I was like, whatever. Anyway, and then if I win it, I might get invited to the Invitational for the Ontario League. But I don't know if I can make it based on the schedule that I have, which is crazy. I might be in Tacoma that weekend. Who knows? Anyway, now we get to the main part of the show. After me rambling for about 30 minutes, let's dive into the Q&A. So the way this works is Patreons, like supporting patrons from any tier, Urgel, the Faithful, Cabalite tier, Scourge, Trueborn, Incubi, right? We've got the 5 tiers of patronage. You can ask a question for the show, and then I'll read it, we'll discuss it, we'll talk about it, and hopefully you glean some information of some sort. Hey, thank you so much for the super chat, Joaquim. Really appreciate it. If you lose, you didn't have enough robots. I know, that's usually how that works. If I lose, I didn't have enough robots. Yeah, that makes sense. Beep boops. It's really funny because I keep on posting stuff in binary code in like the league chat. And I'm like, did you translate it? And everybody's like, no. I was like, oh man, like I'm putting all these cool taunts in binary and nobody wants to read my binary. Anyway, let's dive into the Q&A. Drazar asks, if you could use any iteration of Drukhari in the current meta, what would it be? As an example, I'd love to play post-Eldari launch Flayed Skull Black Heart from 9th edition. Oh, any iteration of Drukhari. Oh, like any combination of Drukhari? Well, it would have to be list building options from 3rd edition. So like Jetbike Archon with combat drugs, an incubi helmet, an incubi glaive, uh, uh, and a jet bike, and a shadow field, like that like crazy murder jet bike Archon, right? So that style of list building where you customize everything, right? With ninth edition Drukhari. Like ninth edition Drukhari was very cool and very strong. I really loved Poison Tongue. Like even though Blackheart and Flayed Skull were like very popular, I really like the idea of taking multiple detachments and having like you could have a detachment of like um Flayed Skull and a detachment of the witches and a detachment of Coven or whatever it was, or yes, that sort of thing. Anyway, that was really fun. I really liked the multiple detachment style building, and but Flayed Skull, I mean, Poison Tongue for the redeploy was like one of my favorites, and then I really enjoyed Cult of Strife for the the +1 to charge and the crazy succubus. Like that succubus is the best the succubus has ever been. Archon on a jet bike plus crazy succubus combined. I don't care what else you give me. It's just insane. And I wish mandrakes had the old school mandrake rule where like you put 3 tokens on the table and you just moved the tokens for the first 3 turns as if it was just an infantry unit, and then at the end, during your 3rd turn or at any point up to your 3rd turn, you'd be like, I'm going to reveal them here, and you could just choose one of the 3 markers to bring in your mandrakes, and that's where the mandrakes would be. Which was awesome. I really enjoyed it. It was like an ambush, but it wasn't really an ambush. And then witches. I wish witches had their old witch weapons from like 3rd edition. Was like half of your weapon skill. So imagine it would be like if you hit on 2s, you now hit on 4s. It's just so silly. And if you hit on like 3s, you hit on 5s. Like imagine if it changed your weapon skill by fighting into witches. And then you'd be like, oh, and you get -1 attack as well. So you have less attacks and you hit me worse. That was like the best. Those witches were so good. Anyway, yeah, that's sort of interesting. But thanks for the question, Drazar. It's a nice little trip down memory lane there. Sean asks, Sean, the mighty slayer of the AdMech, says, hey, Scary, I've got Chaos Knights in my last league matchup. Nice. I don't feel like it's a great matchup for me. Any tips, suggestions? Would you consider fixed secondaries? So if you want to play, like, because you're playing Deathwatch in and of themselves don't really like playing secondaries because they're very like, I want to murder and ask questions later. So fixed isn't bad. Like, bring it down and then like engage on all fronts or whatever. Like, you could definitely do something like that, depending on what the deployment style is, which I do not remember what the deployment is for the last league mission, although I can just pull it up because I did put in my whole thing here. Canhammer team tournament. Did I not finish that? Oh, I didn't finish the event. Finish event. Our placing was #1. Total players was technically 24. That's the thing, is these team events we got #1, but it only counts as a 24-person event, so it's like very low scoring in terms of ITC score. Here we go. Ontario League season. It is Mission L, so take and hold hidden supplies, search and destroy. And we're playing on, yeah, so it's table quarters. So yes, engage is not a bad choice, and then like murder stuff. And you have the guns to kill him. I don't know what you're worried about. You just table those knights. Just like absolutely nuke them. Just kill one little knight at a time. My first army was Dark Eldar back in 2001, 2002. The sailboats are almost the same now. I had a few of my Talos in metal. Great times. I have a single metal Talos that was given to me in that cabinet, which is awesome because I have 5 Talos and 2 Chronos. And I was like, I need a 6th Talos. And then I remembered I have one right in the cabinet. He's like right there. That means I can just have to put some basing material on him. And I've got 6 Talos, one of which is an old school Talos. So I get like OG points, you know? Heck yeah. Charlie Sparrow says metal Talos were awesome. Nod, Scorpion, Sting. Yeah, exactly. They're just a Scorpion. And I remember having one back in the day. And it was fine. It was like a dreadnought. You just run him around and hopefully he didn't die. They were relatively tough. Not as tough as some other monsters, but they were pretty tough and they were skimmers, so they ignored like terrain, and which was really good back in the day as well. But thanks for the question, Sean. Good luck with that. Have fun. Enjoy your last mission. I look forward to hearing about it. And you're up there to win the whole league, like this leg. So congratulations. That's fantastic. The Ripper says, "Hey Scary, I really love using your LVO list. My LVO list is really good. And it got cheaper, got 20 points cheaper. You can tweak it a little bit, take the grotesques out, add something else, and there's lots of ways you can make that army like really, really good. I've even got a bomber recently, so I could try it out. Amazing. But what would you change now that we have 20 extra points? It seems so good that I'm scared to change it." Yeah. I haven't really tweaked it too much, but taking like 20 points, the where you're going to find the points is really in two ways. One, you either take the grotesques out, but I find the grotesques are very good at like an initial skirmish, right? Or to hide behind a wall and force your opponent to sort of gamble on a trade because they fight on death. So if somebody sends something like jump pack intercessors into them to try pull them out from behind a wall or whatever, like your fight on death could kill half the jump intercessor squad or whatever, which could be really, really nasty. So to be honest, the more I've been thinking about it, the more I like the idea of removing one of the two rack squads. That's 55 points, and adding a squad of jet bikes, which is 75 points. And it basically, or is it 65? No, it's 65 points. So you could do that and then add Spiteful Raider on someone. You know what I mean? But you don't really have... Yeah, you could put Spiteful Raider on, like, the Beast Pack. So if he does go kill something on an objective, you get an extra pain token to give you some pain token generation. That's one option. Another option is to drop both units of racks, right? So you can drop both units of racks. That's 110 points plus 20 gives you 130 points. Means you can add in a third Scourge unit. So that is another option. You lose 5 bodies and 1 whole unit, but you add another unit of Scourge, which could be more Dark Lances, more Haywire, something else like that. So if you need some more firepower, that's another choice as well. And then, of course, another option is something like dropping the grotesques with the 20 points, and then adding a second Chronos to each Chronos, right? Or running one squad of 2 Chronos and 2 single Chronos. So like that, you have like a bit of a better anti-horde clearer with double flamers and double butt guns, right? And or you could do the Talos, dropping the Talos, right? Which is 160 points plus 20 is 180 points, and that gives you a little bit more wiggle room. You could do a variety of things with that. So there's places where you could find some wiggle room to add some extra stuff in. It really does depend on what you want to try and achieve as well. Ronnie says, "Real Space Raid Detachment was the biggest fun for me. Still gathering slave-like models to put on the 2 Tantalus I used in there." Nice. Yeah, I have the 2 Tantalai. I've got my main Tantalus that I bought, and then Dustin gave me a Tantalus. I'm very sad that they're legends. I do like to use them in narrative games, crusades. Like, you can still use them in the odd stuff like that. It's a shame that you can't. Like, I had built a whole list that I really wanted to try with them and stuff, and it's a shame that I don't really get to use them very much anymore, or I can't really use them in list building. And I've got 2 Reapers as well, like the longer gun ones too. But the Ripper, I hope that gives you some food for thought. The key is just get creative with it. It doesn't have to be too complicated. But I'm sure you can just tweak it. Don't use those 20 points. Use the 20 points. Make it your own. Find something to use the 20 points for, right? Which is what I would recommend. So let's go on to Charlie Sparrow. It says, "Hi, Scary." Hello, Charlie. "I feel that infiltrators are so key in the game / current meta. I could be wrong. This is an impression. What are your thoughts on infiltrators? If you're talking about Space Marine infiltrators, I feel like I start every competitive Drukhari Space Marine list with a unit of infiltrators, a unit of inceptors, and you know, and that's kind of where and a unit of intercessors, like sticky objectives, screening out, and 6-inch deep strike. That's the three things that I really like, and then everything else kind of builds around it, just so I have something that can get in close, do an action, stuff that stops my opponent from using the back of my table edge, and sticky objectives with a bunch of bolter shots. And I think that's just very, very convenient. Oh, you meant just infiltrators in general. Good morning, Raymond. I think you mean the infiltrate special rule. So I think having infiltrators is very important in the current game, especially with how much high pressure you can have. Now, the key is learning when to use them and when not to use them, and whether to use them aggressively, defensively, or sort of like in a support role, which is like towards the side of a table. Now, you don't want to rely too much on them, because if you are relying on winning the roll to see who puts the first unit down, that can just go sideways. So I would never fully rely on them, but it's nice to have them as a tool. My regular Drukhari army has usually 2 units of infiltrators. If I were to go back to UKTC, I'd probably try and build a list with 3 units of infiltrators, just to make sure that I had like a third unit that could, like, you know, I could sacrifice and then have 2 uppy downy units later. But we'll see kind of like how the meta develops over time as well. Then for us, the mandrakes are so valuable it feels weird to screen with them. I tried to use them to screen Nurglings, which felt unnecessary. They died turn 1, so I wouldn't use them to screen other infiltrators ever. Okay, not ever. I wouldn't use them to screen against things like Nurglings. Unless my opponent had like 100 Nurglings, and I don't want to get pinned into my deployment zone. However, I would use them to screen out 60 Gene Stealers, you know, or an infiltrating squad of, you know, assault Terminators or something. You know, if I know my opponent has a big, aggressive infiltrating unit, and I win that roll, I'm putting my infiltrators in a sacrificial position to give me space, so my opponent can only put them in a limited area, right? But I'm rarely sacrificing my mandrakes. If I had 3 units of mandrakes, 1 could almost always get sacrificed. But because I run 2, they've 1 gets sacrificed, and very rarely. Either to stop an aggressive scout move up, like if I'm playing against World Eaters that have lots of scouts, or Votan or whatever, and I need to, or, you know, something that has very aggressive scout moves that I need to prevent them, like orcs with the crazy grot unit. Like if they put their grot unit down, and my mandrakes are like in front of the grots, being like, you know, in certain missions, right? But it's definitely something that the mandrakes living later in the game will give you more points. So the longer your mandrakes live, the higher your likelihood of winning. So if I don't have to put them out front, I never do. And one of my key concepts there is if my opponent puts infiltrators up, they're giving me free kills early, so that's just bonus pain tokens for me, and it gives me a stepping stone. So I'm okay with them getting aggressive. You know, I've got other screens. I've got a beast pack. I've got lots of screens I can use. It's sometimes I need to have some breathing room against like very skew pressure lists. Yeah, exactly. So you'll notice if you're missing mandrakes, right, towards the end of a game for sure. Not submitting a new list, but thinking of tweaking your LVO list by dropping a rack unit, using the 20 points from the cabs to get a 30 in mandrakes. See, that's another great choice. You're 5 points under, which always irks me a little bit. But you know, it is what it is at that point. You know, you can't. That's a pretty solid use of those points. LVO list, taking the 20 points and 1 unit cabs, putting in 5 more mandrakes, fantastic change. And it gives you 1 unit to be able to sacrifice early on in a match as well. Joaquim says, when you think about it, Admech and Drukhari are not so different. Admech lobotomizes criminals instead of using whips and sharp blades. That's true. They just make them servitors. It's hilarious. Moving on, Crazy Disc says, good morning, Skari. Good morning, Crazy Disc. 40k is a game of communication. Yes. However, there's not enough time to communicate everything with your opponent. That is also true. Something I was wanting your opinion on is this. What to do if an opponent has an outcome-based reaction So if they tilt. Nice. The example is my opponent walks 5 Blade Guard out. Urian overwatches. Opponent says, didn't know Urian had a flamer. I ask if want to change. They decline. Urian spikes, kills 2 Blade Guard. Opponent becomes upset. If this goes on YouTube, please remove the example. No! I'm very sorry I didn't read that before I put it down. Look, at the end of the day, what happens is, like, it is a game of communication. It is a game of give and take. But you are not responsible for how your opponent behaves. Like, you can influence it in a certain way. And it seems like it's a very simple thing. You go, I'm going to watch. You give them the option to take it back. And that's all you can do. You know what I mean? It's dice. We play a game of dice. Urian is just as likely to do absolutely nothing than he is to kill a Blade Guard or 2. Like, it's more likely that he just does nothing. Like, literally nothing. I will only ever overwatch him if I'm trying to kill something that has, like, 1 wound left, because I know he's likely to get 1 devastating wound through, and that's it with his flamer. Like, it's not that, first of all. Secondly, you cannot control your opponent's attitude and mentality. It's just not going to happen. You can't stress about it. You know, you can, that's not a gotcha, right? You're very clearly allowed, said you can take that back if you want. And that's it. That's all you can do. You can't overcomplicate it. And people are going to get tilted if they're like, disappointed or whatever. Whatever. If they're going to be grumpy about it, like, yeah, it sucks because you're on the other side of the table, but it's like, what are you going to do about it? Like, I told you, even then you could be like, do you want to take it back now after you've seen all my rolls? That you could go as far as that. Be like, look, you've seen the rolls. Do you want to now take it back after you've seen what the capacity of Urian is? Like, I would probably be like, sure, do like it's okay. I don't care. We're playing freaking toy soldiers. Like, we're playing with Barbie dolls with guns, okay? Like, if you take this too seriously, it's like, come on, don't take it so seriously. We spend too much time, money, and effort playing this game to be grumpy about it. We're playing freaking toys, okay? Anyway, we are not responsible for how our opponents react. Correct. And, it's about communication. So being like, having that conversation, looking them in the eye and going, I did tell you could move them back. Like, what the fuck do you want me to do? Not a tournament player. What do you do if you accidentally roll too many dice? Usually you say sorry and re-roll it. You ask if you want to re-roll it. Be like, oh, sorry, I rolled like too many dice or whatever. Like at the tournament, like for example, when that happens, like I was doing a quick roll. I was rolling quickly, for example, in the last game of my tournament in a lot this weekend, and I was shooting at a truck with like my Transcendent Catan. And I was like, okay, so roll. I got like 3 sustained hits on this thing, and I was like, oh, cool. And I'm like, cool. I wound on 3s, and he rolled his saves and dies. And I was like, wait a second. I don't think I wound on 3s. What's the toughness of your truck? 8. It's like, right. That doesn't make sense. So I looked at my stats again. Oh yeah, I'm strength 8. I'm wounding on 4s. I'm like, hold on. Like, don't kill the truck, right? I wound on 4s. I'm just gonna re-roll it if that's okay with you. He's like, yeah, no problem. So then I re-rolled my wound roll, wounding on 4s. And even though I got less, like, even though I had rolled quite well the last time, it's like I just needed to re-roll it to be like, no, it has to be proper. And then I didn't kill the truck. But that's, it's about just being okay, kind of being like, oops, so hold on a second. I made a mistake. Sorry about this. Let's kind of backtrack it a little bit as well. My saying when describing it to new players is adult G.I. Joes. Yeah, exactly. Understand why people react the way they do is important, though. It is important as well. But at the same time, I worked in sales for like 7 years, and you could go up to somebody and say, "Hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you," or whatever. We're like selling stuff today, right? Some people just didn't want to be sold, and that's fine. But it was like sometimes people would like have a reaction that didn't match the like what was happening at the time. He'd be like, "Hello, how's it going?" They'd be like, fuck off," or whatever. Pardon my language, YouTube. But it would be like, you know, it'd be like, oh, okay, well, uh, I have no idea what's going on in their life. You know what I mean? Like, we play toy soldiers to get away from the stress of life. We have no idea if people are going through work stress or life stress or health stress or whatever, and it can overflow and kind of come out in a game, right? Because you're like, and sometimes that's the case, and you just can't take it personally a lot of the time. To this topic, played one game with my opponent, got really close, lost most of his army turn one, got really upset and said nothing, made me really sad. To this day, I don't know what was the issue. Yeah, sometimes that happens. I call them battle Barbies. It's fun. Hey, there's nothing wrong with. I used to play with Barbies all the time. Like when I was I don't know why. Like I just really enjoyed playing with like dolls. Even when I was like 8, like 7 or 8. I was young. But I went to my cousin's house. I had 2 cousins. Well, cousins by friendship. So my dad and their dad were like brothers, but like friend brothers. So I've always considered them my cousins. And and uh and yeah, I remember playing with Barbies all the time. Yeah, but I think it was more like they were outside in the garden and we made them like dig and play war and stuff. It's the Toy Story of a dude sitting on a throne. Yeah. Some people attach way too much to winning. Some people really need the win. Yeah, so sometimes people do invest a lot in the win. But crazy, sorry that I didn't read the question before I posted it. I just literally copy paste them all, format them, and then I get to them in the moment. I don't see a way to connect to Discord being a non-member. So Colin, you have to go to the Patreon page if you want to get into Discord. You go to the collections, and in the collections there's a promo. There's a promos collection. Click on that, and one of the posts will be the Discord. And then the link will be right there. And then you just join there, and the capture is in there as well. But it is on the you have to go to the Patreon page, and it's just linked in there, just to keep it simple, so I don't have it all over the place. Because I don't want a lot of people, like just randos joining. I just want to keep it like to people who want to be there. So you have to kind of find the link. Have me a great idea. Gonna dig out my old Transformers unit for Knights. That'd be so funny. Unmutable, unstable llama. Hey, Scary, been a while. It has been a while. A question I get asked often, and I'd love your input on. What number of small units should one include in a list dedicated to scoring objectives? Especially the ones like containment, sabotage, cleanse, recover. What kind of units should they be? So in my 2,000 point list, I have about 2 for every 1,000 points dedicated to that sort of stuff, right? So in my 2,000 point list, I have 2 Chronos and 2 Mandrake units, and they're like my main scoring units that I use for a lot of this little crap stuff, right? Containment and things like that. Now, in the overarching army, I also have 2 Venoms that split my Cabalites, so that's and the Witches, so that's 2 more units. So now I have 6, so that's 3 for every 1,000 points. And then on top of that, I've got the Venoms, which do multiple different things, but a lot of the times they end up being mission scoring pieces. So that's 8. So that's 2 for every 500 points now, right? So for an MSU build like Drukhari, I have 2 for every 500 points that are like, but I can afford to do that based on my list concept and build. And based on that, that's about as many as I need to be able to, on average, score a decent amount of all my points all game long without having to give up all of my heavy hitting pieces like the Talos and the Scourge and the Bomber and the Court and Lilith to have to do actions and things like that. Last but not least, I do have the Racks as well. That's another 2 that I tend to use for stuff like that, as well as Uri and Rakarth, that a lot of the times is pressing buttons or going towards the middle of the board and getting murdered. So it's really like almost almost 5 or 6 units. So I have like for every 1,000 points. It's a lot. I've got a lot of units. It's a little excessive, but I would say that you know I that's by design. I like having throwaway stuff. Kerfuffle says, admittedly, I fall victim to being enraged, going bad. Most of what affects me is just going okay, keeping up with my opponent, working through it. Yeah, life stress too. Yeah, makes sense. I get super salty during games, says Gazira. I'm working on it. You know what? It's important to be aware of it, and then once we become aware, and then we understand that we have control over how we react to that. That's like the key part of it. And I can go over to a whole bunch of psychological stuff and talk about like mentality and attitude and sort of like mental toughness and sort of being aware. But I go on tilt as well. Like I notice myself going on tilt at times, and I feel like I have gotten very good at identifying myself going down the tilt road, catching myself before I get too far, and I have great coping mechanisms to bring myself back to a pre-start tilt, right? So once you get on tilt, it's hard to come back, but identifying yourself starting to go down that road is very, very hard to do. But once you know how to do it, it's important to sort of notice it. And I notice it. Sometimes I'm like, especially when I'm like filming a whole couple of days of like mini wargaming and I get to play Luca and or like Josh even, and we're playing and like something just rubs me the wrong way and I'm like, ugh, I'm done with this game. And it does happen every once in a while. And then you'll just like and it kind of check out. You kind of check out mentally. And I hate when that happens, but it does happen. And you could either be like grumpy about it and kind of bring your opponent down who's having fun, or you can try and like navigate it and try and still like make it an interaction that's kind of worth being a part of, right? Watching my opponent get amazing rolls when getting low bowled constantly is super frustrating. Like I'm somehow karmic inferior. It sucks. Yeah, it's one of the and I know that feeling. That's one of the reasons I don't care about dice. I physically do not give a flying F about the dice at all. And this is by design and by choice. I do not even recognize when things are good or bad when it comes to dice. It doesn't even compute in my brain. I don't count. Like, I count how many dice I have to roll, of course, but I don't look at statistics or think of probability or anything. I just go, I'm going to roll this dice. That's it. And that's it. And if I have to make my opponent take a save, that's it. Like, I don't go, I'm rolling 10 dice hitting on threes. I should get 7 hits and then roll and go, ooh, I got 5 hits. Ooh, that's bad. I got lower. And then I need to wound on 4s and I got 2 wounds. Oh, that's bad. I don't know. That's not how I think of rolls. I go, okay, 10 rolls, 3s to hit. Okay. 4s to wound because I grab my hits, 4s to wound, and I go take 2 saves. That's it. It doesn't even compute. I just move on with my life. And it's definitely something that I have worked on diligently over 26 years of playing this game. And it's another thing when I'm like, I try very hard as well to not let my opponent look at my dice and go, ooh, that dice roll sucked, bro. Like, I feel so sorry for you. I'm like, I don't care. You don't have to mention my dice. I literally don't care. They're just dice. Just move on. Move on with you. Move on. Let's just move on. It doesn't freaking matter. Anyway. Let's see. Super Soul Teaching Games. Yep, and it does happen, but it's definitely one of those things that takes practice. It's not easy, but it takes practice. Transformer theme, Imperial Night Army. Call in Patreon promos, calling Rogue Traders post. Oh, there we go. Nice. Try Blood Bowl. Teaches you. Yes, Blood Bowl is insane. It's because you feel you need to perform well. I'm a new player and I can't care less if I lose or win. I just want to have fun. You become good, set a bar higher. Gets to you, yeah. I was darn near full tilt in a Crusade game I played. 9 hours long, 2v2, 1k each. I was going crazy. It happens. Hey, Falls, what's going on? Nice to see you. That's a 9-hour game. It's friggin' too long. I used to care about the dice. It was driving me mad, so I made a difficult change. Yep. Dice or dice, it honestly doesn't matter. When I coach people in 40k, and you can clip this, okay? Clip this and put it on social media or whatever. The most important the most important thing to note about playing Warhammer, which is a dice game, is that you have to change your mentality from I need this dice roll to go my way to a mentality that says I have done everything in my power to this point. Now it's time to roll some dice, which is a very different sort of style of mentality. And when I coach folks, that's one of the things that we try and instill, and we try and get that ingrained in your brain. Okay, moving on. That was a great question. Danny Cod. Hi, Scary. What do you think of full Harlequin? Do you think a full Harlequin list is viable? Yes, I do. I think it can be very good. It's tricksy, but it is one of those lists that would require you to play twice the amount of games to get just as good. Does it have the tricks and ability to win? Does it have? Yes. Does it have lots of scoring pieces? Yes. Does it have killing power? Yes. It has lots of tricks that are very good in the current meta. Uppy downy, reactive moves, resurrection, that all sort of mechanics are very good. So is it viable? Yes. Is it easy to play? No. And last but not least, Baz says, storage and transport question. I've been using army transport, pluck foam, and bags for years. They've always served me well until now. I have 2 new Void Ravens. They're too wide for the trays, unless I angle them sideways, on edge. What do you use for storing and traveling these models? I know we've talked about this a bit. This is more for the chat room to chime in. So I use my battle foam trays, which are like 5 inches deep or whatever it is for the Void Raven bombers, and it's an old cut, like a custom cut tray for a Void Raven bomber, and they're side to side like this, right? And then there's a space for the 2 flight stands, which kind of shove in as well. And I've used that for years, and it is the best thing. I've also got one for a Razorwing jet fighter that has space for venoms around it as well, and those custom foam trays from Battle Foam have been fantastic. And I don't think I would be able to travel with them if I didn't have them. That's what I use, and I stand by it. My 720 is getting too big for airlines nowadays because airlines are getting really finicky about carry-on, so I'm up to potentially upgrading it soon or changing it, but I don't know what bag would have those trays fit in. And a lot of my list building choices, to be honest, comes down to, can I travel with this? Like, can I get to Vegas with 2 Void Raven bombers? Or is it 1 Void Raven bomber plus a Raider plus a Ravager, whatever it is, right? Yeah. Anyway, that's a great question. But I did make a video that was how I transport my Drukhari or Dark Eldar, or how to transport your Drukhari, and I think in that video, if you like search it on the channel, you can find it as well. Okay, but thank you for a question, Baz. Thank you for a question, everybody. So now we're going to dive into the second part of the show, which is the list crunch segment. So in this segment, Scourge, Trueborn, and Incubi level patrons can submit an army list every show if they want to. I will read it, give you 1 or 2 minutes of thoughts for your list, and hopefully either answer a question that you might have or a statement that you might have made about your list. Maybe just give you some thoughts. And is designed not to sort of make a list for you, but give you some ideas, help you develop a concept or a thought process, and give you some inspiration, to kind of like make Warhammer your own thing. Make it your own. That's the whole point. Make it vibe with you. Make it your own. But make sure you have the tools that you might need to score points and do well in the game in of itself. For those taking the risk of actually checking their luggage with their army in there, what kind of case would be durable enough to take the abuse? Very few cases, Kirk. Very few. The horror story from, before we get into the list crunch, the horror story from Cody, who went to LVO with us, right, is he checked his bag. They made him check his bag, and he had it was a magnetized case or whatever, and he had put foam inside so the models wouldn't move. He wrapped it with cellophane and plastic wrapping, had big fragile sticker on it, whatever. So number one, they grab his case and send it. We were going to Vegas, mind you. Send it to Florida on a different airline. How that happened? Have no clue. So then they red-eyed it to Vegas on another flight, so it shows up the night before LVO starts and shows up in the airport at like 10 p.m. So he had to go to the airport, grab it, and then he gets it. And this is an army case that has like a plexiglass window. It's sturdy or whatever, and it's wrapped in like plastic wrapping, everything. It shows up, and there's a giant hole in it. Like, from who knows what, so much pressure was put on this case that it cracked the plexiglass and ripped the plastic, and it was like just a hole in the front of his case. So all the models, needless to say, were demolished. So he had to spend literally like 4 hours that night gluing his freaking models together. And of course, the airline ended up, refunding him because they were professionally painted by like a Golden Demon painter, like like insane. Okay, this is insane. Um, I would never want to check my army ever, ever, ever. List crunch time for a delicious bowl to set up your army and enter the weekend on a great note. That's right, we call it list crunch. It's like a bowl of delicious, competitive goodness, and you can just, the crunch, the milk. It's like that Saturday morning cartoon of, I guess kids nowadays don't really do that anymore. But back when I was a kid, you woke up early before your parents because your parents slept in, and you poured yourself a big bowl of sugary cereal and milk, and you watched cartoons until like noon on Saturdays. It was like the thing you were allowed to do. It was fantastic. Yeah, it was very pricey. Never flying with my Barbies. Like, put them in the overhead compartment. You know what I mean? And Power Rangers, yeah, all of them. Or we used to watch all the movies and stuff. It'd be cool, like VHSs. You remember those? Yeah, before DVDs. Hobo Bob. List Crunch starts us off this week. Says, the plan is to take this to Team's event at the end of the month. Neat. Turn 1, pledge 7. Empress Children. Turn 1, pledge 7. That's really funny. Coterie of the Conceited. Empress Children hitting the meta by storm. We've got 3 Demon Princess Slash with Wings. I feel like that's a pretty standard thing. How they are so cheap, I will never know. I will never understand what this is. This is insane. Okay. But you've got the Eternal Servitude, Unholy Fortune, the 2 of the big ones. I guess it's Come Back to Life, and then the pledgy guy or whatever. I don't know what he does. But there's another one which is the Battle Shock one, which is very, very good. The Battle Shock one is insane. And the Come Back to Life on a 2+, also insane. 2 Lord Exultants and 3 Lord Cacophonists. This is a pretty standard build here. 2 Cacophonists, 2 Exultants, and a Lucius. A lot of the times you'll see a 3rd Cacophonist for the 3rd unit of Noise Marines, right? So it's usually 3 units of Noise Marines, but I don't mind this. This is good. I mean, you probably have 2 of the combat units here. The 3 Princes, though, is where it's at. And, of course, this dude here is awesome. Infractors, Tormentors. So you have the 2 Scouting Tormentors and the 2 Infiltrating Infractors with their plasma. So don't forget to give them a Melt-A-Gun, right? Like, don't forget to give them... Oh, no, that's a Dueling Saber. Those are the Infractors with the combat. So that's the combat ones. These are the shooting ones. Okay, there's the Melt-A-Gun, Plasma Gun. Do you know they have precision? Never forget they have precision. They're very good. They also have sticky objectives. They have so many rules for 85 points. It's insane how many rules they get for 85 points. Like, insane. A couple of Rhinos. Yep, that's pretty good. Chaos Spawn, good. A couple of Noise Marines. 3 units of Noise Marines. See, this is where I would probably... if you only have the 2 Cacophonists, I probably wouldn't run the 3rd Noise Marine unit. I'd probably use that points for something else. What you'd use it for, I don't know. But, like, I'd kind of either find a way to put in another Cacophonist or, like, drop the other unit of Noise Marines. But 3 Noise Marine units is not a bad idea because they are insane. They're very, very good. Overall, good. Yeah, seems like a good list. It's skewed enough that you can do some damage, and in teams you can avoid like stuff that you don't want to play against and just bully the pairings. I think it does take a little bit of finesse to play. It's like Space Marine elves, right? Like it's not as like straightforward as it might seem. And then you kind of go from there as well. But thank you for posting your list. So Phil R says, post Canhammer list and thoughts. So Phil, of course, developing an MSU build, was a little bit unsure about his choice. I did end up getting to speak to you, Phil, at Canhammer, which is great. And it seems like after we'd had that conversation, we had that really bad scoring game. It seems like it kind of helped click something in your head, which was great because then you kind of saw the picture, and then the list itself, I hope, did okay at Canhammer as well. Now, what's really good about a 5-round event, 6-round event, back-to-back is you get a lot of information that then you can use to tweak a list. Whenever you're developing a list, don't change the list completely. Play 3 or 4 games, 5 games, 6 games, tweak a few units, and then see if that changes the core concept of the list and helps you with those units that don't really fit in. Right? That's the key to building a list. Gazera says, is MSU minimum or maximum strength unit? It's multiple small units is what MSU stands for. So usually lots of minimum sized units. The opposite usually being a Death Star style build, which was a build that was like one big unit with all the buffs, which you can't really do very much anymore, but there's still armies that kind of do that style and concept. Dropping the Guardians, extra bodies not always needed. Farseer, I always forgot to use Guide. There you go, that's like 200 points right there. And Warlocks, I love the Strength 7 Flamers, but without a squad to join, they're sitting ducks. Especially against like mortars, I presume. So you get about 300 points you're spending. You're saving. On the fence about the Archon, but dropping to save points. I love the double free strat combined with the Autarch, but I really need more hard target elimination, not more anti-infantry attacks. One of the things the Archon in the Cabalite squad unit is good for is the free grenade. Because you can like move the Venom, disembark from the Venom, grenade something for free pretty much every turn because he has a grenade keyword and a free strat, and then jump them back into the Venom after they've shot. So it's like, it's a good combination. It's just like a free grenade every single turn, which is quite useful. But if to do damage, like it does consistent damage. Then again, it is like 80 points or 85 points, so you can always find something else. 5 more Aspect Warriors or whatever. Picking up more Aspect Warriors. Oh, I wonder why. And a Wave Serpent, as I often need a little bit more movement than just an advanced / battle focus. Yep. So Devoted Vineyard, we got the Autarch, a Vizarch of Rain, so no enhancements. Yeah, makes sense. Cabalite Warrior, just 1 unit for sticky objectives and things like that. A Wave Serpent, yeah, and a Inari Venom. Just split the Cabalites, that's all you need. I love how lean it is. Like, you're starting to really trim all the fat, right? Because we had talked about the Farseer, we talked about the Guardians, and it seems like you're really kind of getting to that with practice, which is awesome. A couple of Dark Reapers, 3 Dark Reapers. Yep. Dark Reapers are great. They hide. They do damage. They have rockets, anti-infantry, anti-tank. It's good. Fire Dragons, triple Fire Dragons. Fire Dragons are so good. Going with 15 is pretty standard. 1 Banshee unit, 1 Ranger unit. The Shining Spears. They're admittedly too expensive, but the damage 3 is good. It's great, especially to like get rid of those like pesky 3 wounded things. You're like, I wish I had a 3 wounded thing. 3 damage thing, right? Hey, Dorian, what's going on? Striking Scorpions, War Walker, Skyrunner Warlock, 2 Warp Spiders, and an Inari Incubi. I love how this list has evolved. The thing I would probably change is just taking 2 units of Reapers instead of 3, and then using those 90 points for I don't know if you're at 2,000 points on the nose, but I would use them. I don't know. Like, I would probably put in another unit of Warp Spiders, but I don't know if you'd find the points elsewhere or something. But that's just me. It is what it is. If anything, I probably would drop a unit of Reapers for another unit of Scorpions. That sort of thing, if you were points left over. Just because I think I prefer that. That's more my style. Like, if I were to take your list and play it for myself, that's the changes I would make. Other than that, I love this revamped list, Phil. I think it very much has the elements that you were looking for, but it's a lot more focused, right? Which I think is very good. As a Swede, I want the new Space Wolves, but I don't like to play named characters. Yeah, that's kind of like a big thing now, is named characters are just part of the game. It is what it is at this point. Crispy says, a Siege Regiment list that I want to use in a tournament, looking to balance the competitiveness and fluff, so I'm attempting to minimize the use of non-Krieg units. Krieg units be good in sieges. Cadian Command Squad, yeah, not bad. Gaunt's Ghosts, very good for competitive lists. I wouldn't leave home without them. Krieg Command Squad, Yeah, also pretty good for a big Krieg unit. Rogal Dawn Commander, can't go wrong with that either. And Creed. Like, pretty competitive choices all round. If anything, I would even drop the Cadian Command Squad, but if you have a plan for them, unless you want Ursula to go with them, so then they have a Master Fox. So that's an option. Cadian Shocks, just 9 Cadian Shock troops. Yeah, decent. Big Brick of Death Corps, fantastic. Can't go wrong with that. Couple of Tauroxes. I hope you have stuff to go in them. 3 big artillery teams. I feel we've talked about this. They're good. Death Riders, interesting. No Rough Riders. Double Death Riders. Okay, so that's a fun. Like, I prefer the Death Rider, the Rough Riders. Combat Engineers. Okay, so there's your Taurox. Sure. Lehman Russ Battle Tank. You're going for the full 10 mans. So you're just like straight up. See, this is definitely a toning it down sort of thing. Like, you could just hyper focus it on 5s, right? Battle Tank, Ratlings, and a Rogodorn. Yeah, you've got a little bit of everything. I think the only thing you're missing is a Sentinel. I would love to see a Sentinel or two. That reroll 1s to hit when they spot is very good. It is a buff that's worth its weight in gold. And if you could find a way to put in a Hellhound to ignore cover and have an Overwatch threat, I think the list would be great. Where would I find the points for that? Probably making both of these 5-mans number 1. And then you could probably like fiddle around with this here, the 2 Death Radiums, unless you really want to use them and you're like, you know what, they think they're really cool. But that's my thought process, my food for thought for your list. Moving on, Matthew. I'm looking forward to our game, actually, Matthew. It's gonna be fun. Your Gladius list, like, one of the things that I've noticed is, like, when you focus the thought process on specific lists is really good. And you and I had a great coaching match, and we had a good conversation about developing your list, either more skew, less skew, right, to kind of have some stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you've developed here. Here's the triple Deathwing Knight list. I think it still has flexibility, just not as much as my prior list. Yeah, we talked about this, so I'm curious to see what you decided to kind of cook up here. It's Azrael and the Chaplain with a jump pack. We talked about why the Chaplain is good. Mortal wounds, makes one of the jump pack intercessors a little bit punchier if you need, can go off on his own to do stuff. The only thing I miss here is that Lone Up Lieutenant. Like, the Lone Up Lieutenant is fantastic. I wish I had, actually, I have to paint him. I have to build and paint him. Maybe this is just the time I just have to get it done. 2 units of assault intercessors with jump packs, 3 units of a jump. This is amazing. I love them. Oh, you also don't have your regular intercessors, which makes me sad. Ballistas, just 1. Triple Deathwing Knight, a Lancer. Oh, there's an okay, you got Infiltrators, good, an Invader, Double Scout Squad, and a Vindy. Okay, so this, good. Double Scout, pretty standard. Invader ATV, good use of points if you just need a filler. Infiltrators, don't leave home without them, Space Marine players. A Lancer, good if you got a couple extra points lying around. Triple Deathwing Knights, do what it says on the tin. That's where I find all the points to do other stuff is in the 3rd Deathwing Knight unit. Like, all I can see is that, switching the Lancer to another Ballistas gives you 20 more points. There's 270 points. And then, what could I do with 270 points? But overall, like, I feel like you have the punching power. You still have a decent amount of mission play. You've got range shooting, Vindy, Lancer, Ballistas. Like, they're not the same thing multiplied, so you have to keep them alive a little bit more than you would. You do have the uppy downy scouts, which is important. And then, of course, the Deathwing Knights put pressure on the middle of the board, right? Which I think is good. I would miss the regular intercessors. Azrael is great to hold the backfield objective, but sometimes you just need something that has 10 OC, right? To just run up and, like, prevent a point. Or in those bolters, just having something with a bazillion bolter shots could get you out of a pickle. That's the only thing I wish that you had in here. I would probably try and find, I would honestly probably drop a jump pack intercessor squad and the ATV to put in an intercessor unit and then potentially the Lone Up Lieutenant. I don't know if you have enough points for that, but anyway, that's where my brain goes. Yeah. I saw a very interesting assimilation swarm list last night, says Dorian. Nice. Assimilation swarm's got some, but Matthew, if this is if this is what you want to try out, we can definitely test it when we play our game in a few weeks as well. So that'll be good. Other than that, you know my thought process. You know that I think that 3 Deathwing Knights is too many, personally. But if they vibe with you, they vibe with you. You just have to make sure you shove them down people's throats and make 4-up saves. That's just how that goes. Danny Cod posted a list as well. Says, new week, new iteration of the list with less Harlequins. Okay, interesting. Weren't you just asking if you could do an army with all Harlequins? I want to put more Star Weavers bit, but I only have 2 for the next tournament. Fair. Ghosts of the Webway. So you are using the Ghosts detachment. So Avatar, Troop Master, Troop Master, Troop Master. No Shadow Seers. Interesting. Do people not like Shadow Seers? I absolutely love the Shadow Seer. I'm in love with the Shadow Seer. 10 Storm Guardians for Sticky. Yeah, that makes sense. Troop, small troop, large troop, small troop, small troop. Yep, they're OC, good. Couple of Star Weavers and a Wave Serpent. Dark Reapers, big brick of Dark Reapers. 2 units of Fire Dragons. Rangers, 1 Skyrunner Warlock, and a Warp Spider unit. Yeah, the thing I would probably do is I would drop some stuff. I would probably go drop a troop here, and if you can find 10 more points, I would probably drop a troop and add another Warp Spider unit, number 1. I think that's super important. And I don't think you need the giant unit of Dark Reapers, because you don't really have as many of the movement shenanigans, because they're not Harlequins. So a smaller unit of Dark Reapers to just sit in your backfield and use a Tempest Launcher is probably better spent. And then you can use the points to get, like, some... If you really want some good infiltrators, instead of Rangers, trying some Striking Scorpions would be very good. They're very, very good for that initial skirmish. But I like the general concept. You've got, like, the Troop Masters with troops. So I like that. If you have 3 of them, 1 big, 2 small. So that stands, 2 transports, so 2 Harlequin transports and a Wave Serpent, which you could put Fire Dragons in or whatever, which I think works really well as well. And then, mix it up a little bit with other stuff. I think the Shadow Seer is context dependent. In Wager, with Infiltrate, I think the value, otherwise 65 is more value. Fair. In Reaper's Wager, I go with the Deep Strike, not the Infiltrate. The Infiltrate is terrible in Reaper's Wager, in my opinion. I do not like it. I do not like it at all, because it puts a 300+ point unit in your opponent's face, and if you go second, there are so many things that will just kill it in this game that you're just wasting those points. I much prefer the Shadow Seer with a Deep Strike, because with a Rapid Ingress, I can make sure that my opponent can't shoot them. And then they advance and charge something and murder it. And it's a lot more useful for me. But anyway, I hope that gives you some food for thought, Danny Codge. And of course, I like Void Weavers. I really do like Void Weavers if it's something you can get your hands on. I think they're very, very useful. Okay, Baz posted listed in as well. That will die fast even before I've been involved. Yeah. Yeah, they all die fast. Everything dies fast in an elf army, Dorian. Just everything. Doesn't matter how many invols you have. They just die. They're just toughness 3. A bolt pistol is just as dangerous as a last cannon, right? Remember this. When you're playing elves, a bolt pistol will kill you just as much as a last cannon will. But usually you'll have 10 bolt pistols for every last cannon, making the bolt pistol one of the most dangerous weapons against an elf. Best advice I ever had for going into Warhammer is rule of cool, play with what you find looks nice on the table. Yep. That also inspires you to keep painting as well, which is a very important part of this whole process. Make sure you do not forget to paint. Just put paint on it. And also, the rule of cool will keep you invested in the hobby, even if the rules are terrible. So if your rules are bad, and your army is going through a lull in effectiveness, being invested in how cool the army looks is like what keeps you going during those dark, dark times. Baz says, I've been using this list for a competitive league and for a local RTT. The league has a lot of Marines, but also a lot of heavy armor, so I'm assuming vehicles. The RTT meta, so the Rogue Trader tournament, so the tournament meta, that's the descriptor we use for a single day tournament, usually 3 to 4 rounds long, was heavily mechanized. It hasn't been going well. I'm 1-4 so far. I'm tempted to fit in a third Scourge Dark Lance unit and maybe some Incubi with an Archon. I think one Beastmaster and maybe one Bomber are options to cut for those points. What would you suggest? Anything besides those units to add or cut? Ho, 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 now I have a Bomber too. Baz? Well, first of all, I'm glad you have a Bomber, which is really cool. As an AdBank player, I know what you mean. Yeah, just put paint on it. Painting never stops. So let's take a look at this. You've got 5 points left over. Lilith, Urian, Archon with a Shroud, Beastmaster, with Spiteful Raider. So number one, yes, I would definitely drop the Beastmaster with Spiteful Raider. Boop, that would be like the first thing I go. I don't think you need 2 Beastmasters. I think 1 is about good enough. So you save 130 points there, right? 135, whatever they cost now. Cabalites, Witches, you have a Court, Mandrake, Scourge, Chronos, Void Raven, Raider, Venom. So it's one of the reasons why for singles events, I dropped my second Bomber. So I did drop my second Bomber for singles events based on the fact that in singles, there are going to be some bad matchups, and having the 2 Bombers is great. Very good in like team events where you can bully a matchup and go, ooh, you have power armor, I have Void Raven Bombers. You know, you go, surprise, right? But in singles, there are some bad matchups. So yes, Void Raven with Dark Sides, Beastmaster, you drop those, you have about 350 points left or something like that. That gives you a lot of points to play around with. One of the things I ended up adding that really helped me in those specific matchups was the unit of Talos. So 2 Talos with liquefire guns, gauntlets, and the twin-linked Haywire gave me more guns into vehicles, which is very useful. And it also gave me a little bit of a counter-punch tanky unit. And then, of course, I added in the couple of rack units to give me some more play in, like, the mid-board. You don't have to go for the racks, but I would recommend the Talos. And then with that as well, you know, there is a place for a Ravager in this list, if you have the points for it. Mainly because you have access to the 4-up invulnerable save. And as long as you don't put it in the middle of the board and just kind of skirt the edges and make sure that few things can target it in return, the Ravager's value is not bad. You know, I played that battle report where I did a list with 2 combat patrols, and having the 2 Ravagers was not terrible. I actually really liked them. And because I had other stuff like Raiders and Venoms and things like all over the place, the Ravagers didn't get pressured as much as I would have expected. And I was able to keep them alive against an army that did have a decent amount of shooting. But that's kind of where my thought process goes. You know, cut down on the characters, right? Cut down on the Void Raven. You know, yes, 2 of them are really fun, but they do have bad matchups in like a controlled RTT environment because you cannot control like what you're going up against. And then another option would be Incubi. Incubi with another Archon. If you did do Incubi, you'd need a second Archon. And then you want a Venom for them as well. So that would be a 3rd Venom, Incubi, Archon. And of course you've got, and then what you do there is you put the Shroud. Well, you could put the Shroud on, you could keep the Shroud on the, well, you could mix and match. In some matches, you put the Warlord Archon with the Incubi, put the Shroud Archon with the Court, and sometimes you'd flip them depending on what you needed for that match specifically. But then you don't have the Scourge, right? I mean, you don't have the Talos, but it gives you more power armor killing power with another Venom that you can bounce into and out of and keep hidden and stuff. So it gives you some more tactical choices. Some food for thought for the list crunch for today. And last but not least, Archon Morsan says, Real Space Raid, 1500 point list for casual games. I do enjoy Real Space Raid for casual games. However, it's really funny. I've been playing in the Crusade I've been playing at my local store. I've been playing Reaper's Wager with only Coven units, which has been hilarious. And as per a fancy Drukhari Crusade, I started with a Homunculus, bunch of racks, bunch of grotesques, slowly added Talos and Chronos. and then he basically became a slumlord. So he captured 3 slums, right, which gives him raid spoil regeneration every game. So that's been really useful. And then the next thing he got was an arena. So as soon as he got a witch cult arena, he was able to recruit a succubus, a K the succubus, the muse of death, and her blades, right, a unit of witches. And then one game after, thanks to having a succubus in there, I was able to get 2 more arenas to fill out my arena. And then he got influence on the Scourge Spire, so now I have Scourge, right? So it's really cool. I love like those self-imposed crusade things. But for casual games, it's funny that I've been able to use like Reaper's Wager, which is a better detachment for casual games by hamstringing my list building. So that's how that relates to that sentence right there. Archon, Lab Cunning, Beastmaster, Lilith, Orion. Yeah, makes sense. Cabalites with all guns, witches with a blast pistol, and a phantasm grenade launcher. Yep. Venom, Kronos, Grotesques. Ooh, 6 of them with Oakfire. Nice. Mandrakes, Ravager, Talus. That's 4 Talus. Neat. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty standard stuff. The biggest thing about having the Archon with a blast pistol, like if you're playing for funsies for casual games, I would honestly drop Lab Cunning from the Archon and give Lab Cunning to a Homunculus. So I just have like a Homunculus or instead of Lilith, well, Lilith is really fun. But like instead of one of these two, if it's for casual games, I would probably drop them to their generic named characters. Like I would have a Succubus and a Homunculus instead of Orion and Lilith. And I would go Homunculus with the Labyrinthine Cunning, and then I would do the Succubus with like Blood Dancer or something like that with the points that I've saved. And like that, you just have the Homunculus walking around by himself, and this gives you the pain token every turn instead. Because if the Archon's in the Venom, which in this case he would be, right? He would. You don't generate it unless he's on the board. So just something to keep in mind, Archon Morsen. But it's a fun little list. I like the Big Brick of Grotesque. I like the Talus. The Ravager's fun. Yeah, it seems like a fun little list to play as well. Well, folks, it's coming to the end of the weekly show. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Of course, like the video. Click that like button if you haven't already. Make sure you leave a comment down below. Let me know your thought process. Any questions you might have. I will be reading all the comments. Yeah, share the video if you haven't already. If you haven't subscribed, that's the best way to keep in touch with everything with the notifications and whatnot. And don't forget that you can get onto the Patreon Discord and or the Patreon to best support the channel with the link in the description as well. I'm Skari, #1 Dark Eldar player in the world for the last year. I do coaching, I do content full time, and if you'd like to chat, just hang around. And hopefully you enjoy more content like this in the future. That's it. Thanks a lot for hanging out, everybody. This has been really fun. I'll catch you on the flip side. I've been Skari, your grateful host, signing off until next time. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Look at that. Last second super chat means a lot. Thank you very much. Thank you for hanging out, everybody in chat. You're all amazing. Keep it up. Keep on being awesome. I'll catch you on the flip side. Skari out. The Dark Kin. Bye, everybody.